and Warchant TV, kind of serving, frankly, as a Libations Friday edition of the show because we're off tomorrow. Everybody's off Monday. Long weekend, Independence weekend, some grilling, some family time, some relaxation, obviously. But we'll treat today's show for the purposes of the week as kind of a Libations Thursday. That's what we'll do. Welcome in. I'm Jeff. Tom is along board. So is Director Matthew. You're you, and we appreciate you listening and watching the program. If, in fact, you were watching the program on Warchant TV, don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps others find the good stuff, the stuff that we do. Hit that like button, everybody. We appreciate it very, very much. And, hey, man, this is it. Say goodbye to June. Say goodbye, June. As much as I celebrate June, because it's such a wondrous month with my birthday and all, I will tell you, I'm always happy to have it in the rear view because here we sit now, ACC kickoff nearly upon us, practice nearly upon us, and once practice starts, I mean, for all intents and purposes, football has begun, and you're going to get to hear, now that we're saying goodbye to June, both in the NFL and in college football, that players and coaches are on campus getting ready to start practicing, and man, then the news comes fast and furious, and we knock on wood that it's all good as Florida State needs to stay healthy. Florida State has to have a big year. This is all the buildup to the year we've described ad nauseum, admittedly, of importance, of grand significance for Mike Norvell, his staff, this football team. They've got holes, they've got weaknesses, but they have some answers for once in a couple of key areas, including perhaps on the offensive line. I think later this hour, Tom, I want to talk about that some too, just in general about what we're going to be excited to see now that we can talk about the meetings in Charlotte. What do we expect to learn? What do we hope we hear? As far as the ACC goes, I don't think we're going to get some grand resolution to their financial issues, but I think we can start there. I am excited to go. I missed last year, obviously, going up to Charlotte. I wasn't part of the team yet. And I know you went, and it was one of the first times I've missed in a long time. I'm really excited about going this year because I want to hear from the new commissioner. That address should be interesting, given the fact that the last several years we kind of knew what mealy-mouthed nonsense we were going to hear, which was a whole lot of nothing and just jibber-jabber. We just sat around looking at each other like, okay, nothing's getting any better around here. There are no answers. There's nothing happening. Now a lot of things are happening. Now a lot of things have happened, I should say. And that includes the scheduling that we talked about earlier this week. And that includes perhaps some developments in the relationship with our working partner at ESPN. Who knows? Maybe that is going to happen, because if it does, then I think Florida State has, we all would have a little bit of hope. We'll see. I don't know that we're going to get any grand pronouncements on that front, but I am excited to go and to talk. And by the way, who would you take? Let's talk about that for a second, because this year, obviously, we know Jordan Travis will go. I'm going to presume that Jamie Robinson is maybe the other that comes along for the ride. I don't know if that's true, but I would guess that it's probably Jamie Robinson. Yeah. And I think you could argue that if they bring three, it would be two defensive players in all likelihood. The other would be Fabian Lovett, I think, right? So wouldn't we say that's what it is?
Yeah, for me, I'd say because Jamie Robinson came back, this would be the right thing to do, is to allow him to get in front of the media, get ready to go in terms of NFL media stuff that he will be doing after this season is over. You got to give him a crack at it. And this is a coaching staff. Mike Norvell is the type of a head coach who does that and embraces it for his assistants anyway. There are a lot of head coaches that don't, believe in that type of principle. But Mike Norvell rolls out freshmen to the media. He rolls out assistant coaches, position coaches. And in this case, I would think because Jamie Robinson decided to come back for another season, you want to put your best foot forward for the young man, give himself, a chance to have a little bit more exposure to the media. And I think Fabian Lovett would be, for me, the next pick, just because that dude's going to be a monster this year.
He's fun too, man.
Yes, he's fun, and he's fine around the media. He's comfortable in that setting. I don't know that you've got a second offensive player other than maybe Dylan Gibbons that you could bring. But, even though he's a fellow Clearwater Central Catholic alum, and that's fine. I don't get to brag on that as much as you get to do with Lakewood, man.
Yeah.
So even though he's a fellow one of those, I'd rather have fewer corporate answers. I think Dylan's going to have an excellent career in television whenever his playing career is done, because he understands how to say nothing for 30 seconds, and he knows how to string it out and make it sound interesting. But then when you really get to the substance of it, you're like, what the hell did he just say? He said nothing at all. I could see why it's a win for FSU to bring him, but my hope is that they bring both Jamie Robinson and Fabian Lovett.
You bring a good point up. If they weren't bringing Jordan Travis, then they could have an offensive player in the way of Dylan Gibbons. You're right, because he would yuck it up and embrace that for all it's worth. I think, if anything, I would say to Dylan, who does occasionally tune into the Jeff Cameron show, I'm aware. Dylan, you certainly maybe do have a future. I'd dial it back a little, just a little over the top, a little too on the nail, as they say.
Just shoot from the hip every once in a while. Balance it out. Like, if you want to go with corporate answers in a game week because somebody asks you, what is it about Louisville's defensive line that scares you? All right, give them a canned answer.
Well, first of all, you'd interrupt them and say, nobody scares me. Secondly, they're very
right. Instead of, well, they've got a great defensive line.
Right.
No, man,
Yeah.
And that's all love. It's criticism. It's one marauder to another marauder, Dylan. So don't take it the wrong way.
Well, it's interesting too, because generally speaking, in years where your team is loaded and the expectations are high, it's always very easy to identify 3, 4, 5 players that you're going to take to the ACC kickoff, or that you potentially could take. In fact, you're having to kind of figure out amongst that group which 2, which 3 are we bringing. We have so many options. That's how it is when you have really good football teams. That's not been the case here at Florida State in recent memory, and nor is it really the case this year. I think if you were bringing 2 players that have the biggest upside and the most relevance and importance to your team, you would take Jordan Travis and Fabian Lovett. End of story. We're done talking. Those 2 go. Nobody else goes. That's it. Now, if you have to have 3, fine. Throw Jamie Robinson in there as well. I got you, perhaps. But it's not a receiver. It's not a running back, although I love Trey Benson. He just got here. You can't take him. It's not, who is it? It's certainly not a tight end, although Cam McDonald could go because he's pretty good at this media stuff too. But you also have to have been a real good player, in my opinion. So he's not going to go. Who would you take?
Yeah, how hard do you think Micah Pittman is lobbying for it so he can take his own YouTube enterprise with them and do a behind-the-scenes of the ACC kickoff? Yeah. My assumption would be, and maybe it's an erroneous assumption, but maybe the coaches' offices are like, no, Micah, no, we're not taking you. I don't care. Right. I don't care if you've got a YouTube channel that you want to have an experience. No, do FSU Fan Day for that. Do FSU Media Day in Tallahassee for that. We're not taking you to the kickoff. You haven't proven yourself enough yet, young man.
They didn't have Fan Day last year, did they, because of COVID?
That's probably true. Thankfully, I don't have to be there.
Neither of us have to be there anymore. I spent the better part of my career having to be there and lamenting it every time. But we don't have to do that. We don't have to go.
And to be clear, folks, that's because we would have to set up tables and chairs and give away T-shirts and stuff. Like that. Yeah. That was just a drag.
There's also excessive amounts of talking with people too. It just never ended. So listen, nobody, I don't care who you are, wants to sit around for 5 hours talking with people. Not typically anyhow, unless it's a party and you've invited those individuals, not randos just walking past. So
even then, you invite people so they could talk.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk. That's fine. I'm going to watch this thing.
Yeah. No, but hey, listen, nonetheless, I'm sure they're going to do it this year. I don't know. Maybe Fan Day's done forever. I hope not, because the running of the Gumps at Alabama is must-see television. So
yeah, no, I would. You need every opportunity you can get in order to try and get people to care. As the
if you're watching the video, you're seeing it now.
If you're Mike Norvell, every chance you can get to make people feel better about you in the program, you got to take advantage of it. I would think it returns, and maybe there's an open practice to go along with it as well. But the point remains, there are some players who have proven themselves enough on this roster to make it to Charlotte, and then there are some that can run their own enterprises from.
You got me thinking, what is the tact or what is the approach, the strategy of Mike Norvell at ACC kickoff? What is it he is? There's usually, we know this for all coaches, all teams, there's some sort of central through line theme, some sort of thing where they want a message. They want to create the narrative for the upcoming season, and how they're written about before the season begins is important because it does shape perspective for the fans and for the media covering their team. So they're very careful about what they arm themselves with when they get to Charlotte and the kinds of discussions and talking points that they have with the assembled media, because what you're doing is shaping expectations. So I find that fascinating, because I would tell you that the previous 2 seasons, Mike was very careful about expectations. He didn't go on at length about offensive firepower, for example, and what they expect to do from a game-to-game standpoint, and how this is going to get. Obviously, people know I'm referencing Willie Taggart. I mean, he came out the gate swinging about how many points they were going to score and all kinds of aerial assault and how fast they play and all these things. And, of course, none of it came to fruition, and that furthered the disappointment because he had elevated those expectations. So now, you obviously you want to, I think, always undersell the potential of your team and overproduce. And, that's not what happened. And Mike's been careful about that. So I wonder what his messaging will look like and sound like coming into the ACC kickoff.
It has to be more brash than it's ever been. This is it. This is it for you. This is your shot. Now, I don't think that should be conflated with, trying to talk about winning the Atlantic Division in the final year of its existence, or winning 10 games or anything like that. But it's time to win some damn football games.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be the mantra here. You can't run from it, because if it doesn't go well this year, you're gone anyway. So what the hell difference does it make? You've got to be a little bit more aggressive in your messaging. Again, it's not to say you push it so far as we're trying to compete for an ACC championship. Don't say anything crazy like that, but you've got to have a little bit of pride about you and about what this is building towards. And a ton of the questions, even though it's ACC kickoff, a ton of the questions are going to be about that LSU football game. So whatever it is, just find a way to pound your chest a little bit about what you've done, because you have to exude that confidence before it's too late.
Yeah, it's a fine line, though, Tom. They're not good enough to have the kind of brash and confidence of speech that teams like Clemson have, or NC State even in the Atlantic will have. NC State won 10 games last year. They beat Clemson. They think they're going to win the ACC this year, something they've never done. So Florida State isn't at that level. But they are good enough to be the third place team in this division, and they kind of better be. So yeah, that's an interesting balancing point. Now, listen, maybe they can beat NC State. I doubt it, but no, I don't see that happening. Oh. I can tell. By the way, it's interesting to me, and we got a break. But I think you think the NC State game is probably one of, if not the most unwinnable game on our schedule.
Just playing the odds, they can beat them. They could beat They could beat any team on the schedule this year. And I don't know the last time I was able to say that. Now, this isn't LSU with Joe Burrow, so I'm not trying to build up opponents where they're. And this is not Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson's Clemson's teams. But that's also reasonable. Then, if you look at the way they competed down the stretch last year, they were in just about every football game they played. And sometimes Mackenzie Milton was their starting quarterback, and they still competed in every football game that they played down the stretch. So that would be the positive thing I'd take away. But if you're playing the odds, and location matters when you're playing the odds, I'd say in a weird way, Clemson feels slightly more winnable at home than NC State does on the road.
Interestingly, I think a lot of people share that sentiment. I'm not sure I do, and we know – obviously, as games play out, that has an effect on your perception of what a team is or is not. So it'll all be altered once they kick it off. But yes, from afar, from a distance, and not too great a distance anymore, now that we're saying goodbye to June, I would tell you that, yeah, I agree with you. I think that road game that's a lost cause in all likelihood. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
The weather is unpredictable and can cause issues around your home. Weston Trawick provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Yeah, hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to tread water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us. We're fine.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service, right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mandlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
July, it's time. It's ACC kickoff, and I think that basically we now get locked in. Practice begins now. Practice begins the month that we're in, and this is now it's go time. It's exciting. It's something that you can get pumped about because it's real. It's here. You know, every time we talk Florida State football in the offseason, there is this projection, and it always feels like it's interminable, right? How far down the road you have to go. Now you don't. Now you don't. You have the ACC kickoff in Charlotte. You have practices beginning. And from where we sit now, it's not only visible, it is nearly upon us. So you can start to get into the nuts and bolts of how anticipatory, how exciting these battles are that we're anticipating in terms of position groups, segment groups, individuals we think have to step up, guys that we believe are going to fill certain roles but haven't yet done so. There are certain presumptions there, Tom, that when you think about it, we were talking yesterday, you, me, and Aslan here on Warchant TV about the fact that we think Kevin Noles is a guy that can emerge as that other outside corner. What other position battles are you looking at beyond the offensive line? Because to me, you have some things shored up on this defense that you don't have to really worry about. It's mainly on the offensive side that I'm kind of wondering, again, the offensive line being the most intriguing. I guess beyond that, would you say, are we arguing about who is the one at wide receiver? Who is is it beyond Micah? Is there somebody that you're looking to that you say, okay, well, we know this is going to be the 2 and the 3?
Well, first I'd say with corner real quick, it's a win-win situation. Whether Noles plays outside or not, he's going to start. So it's just a matter of who fits better. Are you better off having somebody else play slot corner? Because that, the drop-off talent-wise from Noles to the next guy is limited by doing that? Or is it that you have somebody who's more natural playing the outside and Noles is going to play a difficult position of slot corner? But over to the offense, I'd say it's who's going to be the number 2 receiver. I think Micah Pittman's number 1. You could set that aside. Wherever you line him up, he's going to be the featured player in the offense until Winston Wright is 100% healthy, and maybe even after Winston Wright is 100% healthy. But let's just assume for a moment that you're going to go several games at minimum without a 100% Winston Wright. Yeah, who is that guy? Is it Malik McClain? Is it Johnny Wilson? Is it Pokey Wilson? I don't know. I mean, there are options there, but there's going to be a battle in camp. And that's, the first thing I'm going to be looking at, I think, just from an assignment standpoint, because I did it in spring, will be the offensive and defensive lines. I really enjoy that assignment. But if I had a day where I could step away from that assignment and look at something else, I would want to see how the receiver battle is stepping up. And I don't know that you're going to learn that until pads come on anyway.
You can't.
7-on-7 work. For example, Jakai Douglas, and there's a name too, but Jakai Douglas is a player who dominated in spring camp before pads came on, and then he was up and down. He's going to be an explosive playmaker, I think, for this offense, that you don't see him get 8 targets a game, but the 3 he gets might be really game-changing type plays. But I would love to see when the pads come on who separates themselves, because Pittman made a statement in the spring. Who is going to answer in the fall?
Yeah, because I don't have a clear answer to that. I think it's probably Pokey. And I don't want Pokey to be a 2. I think he's going to have to be while we're waiting on Winston Wright. Now, if Winston Wright is healthy, you talk about a boon. You talk about something that could change the fortunes of Florida State's offense from day one. Let's say he's back for LSU. Say he's back for Louisville. If that's true and he's ready to go at game speed and has a clear-cut understanding of what they're doing offensively, now you slide Pokey to the 3. Well, that's a game changer, because that's where that's where you'd want him, as a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one thing I'd say, though, is how many snaps are going to be derived by the difference in body type, too.
Yeah.
If you've got Pittman and Wright and Pokey, it's not exactly the diminutive Kermit Whitfield and Bobo Wilson out there, but they aren't large dudes either. And a big portion of this offense has to be the bubble, or at least the thought of the bubble on every play. They like to do zone read plus a bubble triple option with Jordan Travis being able to run, right? So you got 3 options on every play. I don't know how many of those guys are going to be committed to blocking consistently, or, if they have the aptitude of a Malik McClain when he's engaged, or Johnny Wilson when he's engaged. Is it by definition that because Johnny Wilson likes to block, is a huge sum gun? I won't use a big sum like what Corey would say. Does that mean that he's just by definition going to get more snaps because he can fulfill that role? And then if he's inconsistent catching the ball himself, as long as he can every once in a while, then you have to honor his presence on the field. It'll just be interesting to see, given what the game plan is week to week, who does command those snaps. But there's no doubt that if Pittman's healthy and Wright's healthy, they would be the top 2 guys commanding the most reps.
It's of vital importance that Johnny Wilson become semi-dependable. Because they don't have enough guys that look like that. They don't have enough guys that change the way that defenses have to play because of mismatches physically. Where they know, well, we're gonna have a problem here because we got nobody that one-on-one can really do anything with his physicality. If he's gonna win those 50-50 balls with that sheer size, that mass, and 6'7" frame,
yep,
that's huge. I didn't see it in the spring. He'd have a day where it happened, a couple of days where it didn't in a row. Then you'd have a moment again, he'd bring you back, and you'd turn around and you'd look and you'd go, God, dropped everything that was thrown to him today. He always blocked. He is a physical presence. If he can become consistent, it does change your entire roster at wide receiver, because Micah Pittman is a very different receiver from Johnny Wilson. And I think Florida State has been far too reliant on diminutive receivers. And it's really frustrating to watch. I'm not as high on Jakai Douglas, I think, as the rest of the staff, meaning Warchant staff. I don't see him being a consistent playmaker at all in this offense. I think he's a guy that every now and again will make a big play because he has that potential. But I don't see him getting open consistently and catching the football consistently in this offense. I don't. I just think he's a guy that's kind of an occasional home run hitter. You might get a big play like you're talking about, but I don't think that down to down, series to series, you're going to be hearing a lot of Jakai Douglas's name called.
No, I don't think so either. But I think if you're a home run hitter, it doesn't matter if that comes on what seems to be a benign 2nd and 9 at your own 32. Like that play can change the course of the game, and he's going to get cracks at that. And when he's on the field as a defensive coordinator, you probably have to have an extra player over the top on that side of the field. So what it's going to do is create matchups underneath, because it's clear that Jordan Travis and Jakai Douglas have a rapport together as well. That's the thing that they have to work on in fall camp is getting to a place where the rapport with the Johnny Wilson and Jordan Travis is where it needs to be, or right when he gets healthy. They've got to get on the same page. But if you want to visualize it, not necessarily with Jakai, who's going to be a specialist and not an every down 3rd and 6, where's Jakai on the field? You're never going to do that. But let's just say that on one side of the field, you've got trips stacked, and it's in a bubble-looking formation, right? So you got Trey Benson next to Jordan Travis, and there's Johnny Wilson and Malik McClain with Micah Pittman on one side and Winston Wright on the other, and Trey Benson next to Jordan Travis. Now, if you put that in your brain, you can visualize and see, oh, you can do some things offensively with that.
Actually, that gets exciting. Sorry, Tom. That gets exciting. I'm glad you did the visual there, because when you hear that, of course, what fans will do, and we all do, we will envision those players maximized, optimized.
Yep.
So those players are the best versions of themselves, not the wildly inconsistent versions of themselves that we see day to day in practice. So you've assumed a few things: that Winston Wright is healthy, and that these other three, for example, on the other side, are guys that are all going to be the best version of themselves. I'd like to believe that that's true. If that happens, man, because if you just got done basically describing a scenario by which, in a situation like that, you got two massive individuals to block for one diminutive individual, and here we go.
Right, and even if Winston Wright's not healthy, let's say that it's Cam McDonald against the line of scrimmage on that side with Trey Benson. So it's just trips, and then maybe you can run something like a speed option off to the other side. Whatever it is, you have to honor that and play with balance defensively. You can't cheat on that, because I think the bubble game is going to be stronger for two reasons. Number one, you've got more dudes who can block. Johnny Wilson's going to be a weapon there. Malik McClain already showed many times last year that he is willing to go make a play for somebody else. And that's part of the culture that they're trying to build, but he's also apt at it. McClain's a big enough guy to pull that off. But better than that, look at the way Micah Pittman finished a couple of plays in the spring game around the line of scrimmage and around the goal line. He is not afraid of contact. We've had so many freaking receivers in that kind of a setup that A, don't want to block, and then B, the guy who catches the ball doesn't really like contact all that much anyway. They want to scat their way into the open field and then bounce it for 10 or 15 yards. Pittman doesn't give a damn. He's going to lower his shoulder, and if he has to get through one player in order to make that play go from 5 yards to 17 yards, he'll do it. So I'm not a huge fan in general of the bubble screen. It's kind of annoying and gadgety to me. But if you've got dudes that can run it, and then you've got a quarterback who can run like the wind blows, and a player like Trey Benson, now you can start to see, if that offensive line gets where it needs to go, that this could be a nightmare of an offense to stop.
Perhaps the most exciting thing that we've talked about this offseason happened, or at least in the form of the conversation around it, the other day when Ira said that he'd heard that we have perhaps a center putting on weight to 290 pounds, 295 pounds. If Maurice Smith gets to 295, 300 pounds, something like that, well, that's a game changer, because now you have a viable option at center, even if Caden Lyles doesn't emerge as your center. That's my big fear. I can't wait to go to fall camp and see him, to see if he's noticeably bigger, because, and I, you remember this, Tom, I kind of alluded to the fact that there was the chance he could get bigger this offseason. We're not allowed to get into all the reasons why. I don't want to. It's not fair to him. But it may be that he's now in a position where he is able to put on weight, whereas before he wasn't. And if that's the case, you really, all of a sudden, you have an addition to your offensive line that you weren't anticipating, that I wasn't anticipating. Because I will tell you this, I assumed that he can't start for us. Not at that weight. He can't. We saw it. It was a failed experiment. He understands it. He's got a lot of heart, good footwork. All that is true. But he's so small, there are matchups he loses. He has no chance to win. No chance to win. And you can't roll a guy out there time and again like that on roller skates. So if he's now going to be part of this competition that we're referencing, well, come on, man. Here we go. Because now you mentioned Trey Benson. I think they're going to run the heck out of that kid. They now have some depth at running back that's beyond serviceable. Now you got two guys that can play, and another that, is a nice change of pace. So who knows, again, you have some emerging players. That's a deep group. While there's some unproven talent there, who knows, one of them can emerge as well. But you have options, and I think your top two are pretty damn good. So now somebody besides Jordan Travis is going to be a big deal in the run game. Yeah,
well, and just to return to the Maurice Smith point real quick, I had him, in my 30s in the Warchant top 40 because I need to see that he actually has gotten that much bigger, or if the coaching staff is exaggerating because he's making progress. Like I just, that's one of those you got to see with your own eyes. And what I also need to see is whether or not the back issue that he had last year, which Gene was more than fair to point to when we were doing our own Warchant top 40 and describing what was going on with Maurice Smith and, the diminishing numbers and his grades and things like that, is did the back issue affect his snapping or not? I think that's a big deal because, that's a big part of the position as well, is to snap the football accurately. So even if he gets to 290 or 300, I'm almost thinking is he better off playing guard? Because if you can't snap the ball and Jordan Travis has to worry about that half the time, think about it. One good snap to Mackenzie Milton and he might beat Notre Dame. Those things matter greatly. And if you've got 50-50 games and you've either got an uprooter who can't move as quickly from point to point in Caden Lyles, but he can snap the ball, or you've got a larger Maurice Smith who is agile as hell but has snapping issues that appear out of nowhere, give me Caden Lyles all day and line up the other guy at guard and have him compete at guard. But the good news is if Maurice Smith enters the fray in this competition, well, now you're looking at a group in the offensive line, for real, not hoping, for real, that's 8 or 9 deep worth of contenders. And if you have a couple of guys get healthy, like a Thomas Schrader, for example, now you can practice with 3 different offensive lines, and A.J. Duffy's reps won't suck because he has more time than he knows what to do with. So everything gets better off. The trickle-down effect is real there if Maurice Smith is a lot larger and able to compete for the O-line job, the center job, or a guard job.
So we know that the last time we were depending on an offensive lineman who was a transfer portal player, he ended up being our best offensive lineman. What if Dimitri Emmanuel is that? Yeah. It's crazy to think about, but we watched that happen, and if that happens again, all of a sudden you do have more than a serviceable offensive line. You might have a plus offensive line. I mean, again, I know that's a That's a tough stretch for a lot of people to get to, but it's possible, and it hasn't been possible. There have been no chance in hell in the last 2 years that you were going to point to the offensive line as something of a plus position. Well, you're going to say, can we get by?
Certainly plus by our standards. That would be the thing I'd say, by what we've seen. And think about it. Look, if you've got a battle between Smith and Lyles at center, well, you've actually got a third option because the coaching staff really likes Darius Washington at center as well. So you've got 3 deep in a competition there. The loser between the top 2 might be able to play guard. Maybe Darius Washington ends up playing guard. I'm leery of that. I think he's more of a tackle depth piece. But then there's Dimitri Emmanuel, who enters the conversation, and maybe Turnitine is another guy who can enter you have a legitimate backup tackle along with Darius in case either Scott or Bless Harris go down. I mean, it's just, again, for years, it's been, well, shoot. Can Brady Scott play right tackle? Like, we're far from that discussion at this point where it's, oh my God, there's one guy that backs up if there's one injury, and I don't know who the next guy off the bench would be. And really, that one guy who's a backup can only truly play guard. So if we lose a tackle, we have to slide one of our starting guards out to tackle. It's just a nonsense mess. The domino effect here is a lot cleaner. And the other outside factor is, who knows? If we get to past the October 22nd bye week, maybe one of the true freshmen that are on campus at that point is good enough to be in a rotation and give you 10 snaps a game if somebody goes down with injury, or they can come in a jumbo package. Whatever it is, you're starting to get to a place where the offensive line is building into a solution, and that is a trend that is welcome to everybody, but hopefully the math is obvious. When you've got 10 new bodies on campus and some holdovers that are pretty good too, you would like to think that you'll have more options than, dead weight on the roster.
One of those players, either the South Carolina kid, the Turnitin kid, Dimitri Emmanuel, Bless Harris, one of those linemen, Caden Lyles, if any of them become this year's version of Dylan Gibbons, Florida State has that opportunity to be, and I would, you said for us, I think they'll be above average in the ACC on the offensive line. If any of those guys turn out to be as good as Dylan Gibbons, now that's a big if. That's a big if, but maybe they are. Maybe they are. Dimitri Emmanuel would probably be the one you'd guess is going to be that, maybe because of all the experience he has, how big he is. It's possible that he could be. And if he is, well, then now you've got maybe 3 of the 5 positions on the offensive line filled by good players. Good players. Yeah, man, it's been a minute.
Well, there are some offensive lines in this country and programs in this country that rotate dudes within a game to keep everybody fresh.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that? We didn't even have that in the 2013 year. But I mean, I'm looking at opponent scouts last year. I'm like, why is this guy playing 30 snaps and that dude playing 50? Oh, they've got depth. Oh my God. They almost treat it like a defensive interior. Let's give this guy a little bit of, you know what? We don't foresee a huge drop off here between this right guard and that right guard. They're both okay. They've got some weaknesses, but they're okay. And I like 50 snaps out of this guy instead of 80 snaps out of this guy.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Be a position where you rotate at right guard or something like that within the course of a game. What a novel concept in Tallahassee.
If you're watching on Warchant TV, of course, as always, like and subscribe. We appreciate it very much. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Florida, one of the worst in history. The CDC confirms at least 26 cases so far and 7 deaths in the state. The disease is mostly spread through saliva and close, lengthy contact. Health officials are now urging people to get vaccinated. St. Mark's officials confirmed Wednesday that the city will not have a fireworks display for the 4th of July. Although the city's population is only about 360 people, city manager Zoe Mansfield said they usually see double that amount for their fireworks celebration every year. Unfortunately, due to a staffing problem, people won't be seeing the fireworks or that crowd in 2022. Even though the St. Mark's fireworks show is canceled, there will be other displays going on in Wakulla County. Shell Island Fish Camp will have fireworks, and Sop Choppy will also have them at the city park. This is Rachel Linnea with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MaclemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Scattered thunderstorms likely this afternoon. Otherwise, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. High temperatures reach up to 90. East winds around 5 miles per hour. Cloudy skies tonight. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Lows dip down to about 73. Scattered thunderstorms likely tomorrow. High of 89. More clouds and sun. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 88.
Hey, you, can't you read the sign? It says, keep off the grass. Oh, but I just wanted to feel it. Excuse me? I wanted to feel what it was like to have an amazing lawn like you do. It always looks so good, even in the summertime. How do you do it, neighbor? They're called Lawn Johns. They come once a week. Maybe you should give them a call so you can tell other people to stay off your lawn. How's that sound? Ooh, yes. I would love to tell people to stay off my lawn.
For the very best in lawn care, call the Lawn Johns at 850-322-2567.
Stay off my lawn. Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Here's what you missed on the Greg Tish Show.
There's a TikTok that's going viral because of a butter softening method. They are putting the Vermont Creamery butter in the waistband of her pants. Give it 5 minutes. You can go and measure out your ingredients, and then your butter is ready to go. You cannot do this in Florida.
No.
Because your pants will be full of butter in 2 minutes. Somebody try it. Post on TikTok.
Unless it says juicy across the back.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Nation's Thursday edition of the Jeff Cameron Show. I haven't peeked outside today. I'm at my house. Tom's at his house. Matthew is at his house. We're all just scurrying about trying to get this done before the holiday. Your vacation, our holiday, I suppose, is the way to look at it. And I haven't even really begun to look outside because I fret that it's going to be raining, and I've got outdoor activity today planned, Tom Lang. I got some mowing to do. I got to get to some gutters, buddy. I'm being an all-American dad on this all-American weekend, buddy. I've got I got some shrubbery to trim. Woo! Big comings and goings at the Cameron household, buddy.
Goodness gracious. You're doing it all yourself? Man, this is the time to get away, go to the beach, and let somebody else worry about that.
No, I'm going to do it myself. I'm a man, and this must be done. We have somebody's got to trim these trees. Somebody's got to get these gutters operating at peak efficiency as the water trickles down at my T-Spark constructed roof.
I think it's very manly to use disposable income to have other men take care.
I do that for the hard stuff. Anything to do with a car, anything to do with actual like real labor. Like if a pipe needed to be fixed, Tom, I'm not fixing a pipe. I'm having somebody come in there to fix that pipe. Anything to do with sort of plumbing, I don't mess around with plumbing. And if trees had to be trimmed as opposed to bushes, then yes, I too would hire somebody to come in and do that. I got to give a shout out, even though they're not advertisers, so maybe limited love. There's a place in town that if you have, let's say, a riding lawnmower, they'll fix it. They'll come and get it, Tom, and then they'll fix it, and then they bring it back. And I just did that this week. I just had that done. And my friends over there off of Capitol Circle, you know who you are. You did the right thing. They came and they picked it up. Now, listen, hold on. I didn't get a hookup. I had to pay for it. This is not some sort of pay.
No, I'd say it'd be shaky if they took it, they fixed it, they never brought it back.
Never brought it back. That'd be a hell of a thing, huh? What a business model. So yeah, they're just selling stolen machinery out the back door. So no, I had it done this week, and it was kind of funny because the guy who called me is a big fan of the show. And when I called to have this thing picked up, he's like, "Is this Jeff Cameron?" I said, "It is." And he was like, "Oh, I mean, I love your show." I was like, "Thanks, man." And then as we started talking about it, he was funny. He was I don't know if he was overly polite, if that's just the way that he is, or if it was just that he was excited to be talking to me because of the show. I don't know. But he was a really, really kind guy. And he kept telling me, I knew the thing that needed to be fixed, Tom, was a mess. It knew everything. But the blade would not engage. And the blade's very important. Obviously, it does all the cutting. The blade would not engage. And so, I don't know, I figured I broke a belt. Now, you know how embarrassing it is when you make a call and you know nothing about how things work. You don't know how a combustible engine works. You don't know how any of it works. And so here I am calling. I'm like, hey, I got this riding lawnmower. It's a John Deere. It's a good one. And here's the thing. It doesn't work. It starts, but it doesn't work. And so I need you to come make it work. And he asked me a question. And man, as soon as he asked me a question, I panicked because I thought, oh no, he's going to start asking me things about machinery. And I don't know anything about machines. And so I was like, listen, it just needs a lot of work, probably some spark plugs. And I heard myself say that. And I made myself laugh because how absurd is that just to say probably some spark plugs? But that's what I said. I said that to the guy. I go, probably some spark plugs. Some things there that'll help it get moving.
I also like the idea that you took the time to emphasize John Deere as though it's work to be able to describe the manufacturer of the riding mower. Like, listen, I've got a mower, a John Deere, in fact.
It's a John Deere, in fact, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Then you know what? This guy clearly knows what he's talking about. This guy knows what he's talking about.
I want him to know I didn't have some knockoff brand. This isn't a Jim Smith. It's a John Deere. It's a John Deere. We've got some things here. This is really good. This isn't a Tom Wilson. It's a John Deere. So I knew that they would, he was like, oh, well, the guy's got a John Deere. He knows what he's doing. So I was just like, yeah, come on and pick up the John Deere, whatever you think needs to be done. And I realized I could get absolutely screwed over. He could have been like, oh, well, you need a new John Deere. And I'd be like, I guess I do. I would have, that would have been me. He could have said anything. But he ended up saying that I did need to. Hey, by the way, my wild guess that it needed new spark plugs was correct. It was one of many things that was wrong with the John Deere.
I didn't even know that a John Deere needed spark plugs. So
I didn't either. I assumed it. I thought all things that have an engine need spark plugs. So I was just like, probably needed some spark plugs and I made it sound like there are like 8 sets of spark plugs. I'm like, probably some spark plugs. And I was like, I did say when I engage the blade, there's a little button that you push, Tom, and it it's a little thing that you pull and then you slide down and it engages the blade. It's fun to do. When you do it, it's fun. I love the moment that the blade engages. You're like, ooh, I'm cutting stuff. And you feel it drop down underneath you. You're like, oh, because now you have an object that can just rule the earth. It's got this blade and you're in charge of it. And it's just like, oh, come get you some. And you're talking about branches. You're talking about bushes that have got a little squirrely and they're overhanging a little bit. You can just ride right over them. Of course, the grass, all of it. You're like, here I come, guys. This is it. Today's the day. There's hell to pay now that I've engaged the blade. But anyhow, it's fixed. And so what a weekend to have it done. What a weekend to have it done, right? It's the long weekend. It's the 4th of July weekend. And I've got amounts to basically a brand new John Deere, and I'm excited about it. That's a long-winded way of telling you why I'm excited to do all this yard work myself.
So with this not being necessarily live for the chat, maybe somebody could email me, tom@warchant.com. Can you explain to me what my neighbor does when they activate the mower and seemingly they just drive around in circles on a dirt lot in the back? But it's a mower that's activated, and it's ours. I don't know if he's flattening the ground or something, or, dragging leaves. I don't understand what's going on, but there is no green to mow. There's not a pile of branches they're trying to cut. The mower just goes round and round. You should come over for an NFL Sunday this fall. On the back deck, and you'll see what's going on. They have, in year 2, they did back off the NFL Sundays a little bit. They took it a little bit easier. Maybe they're listeners of the show. I don't know. But I would love to know what the hell the purpose is of I think he's so mad at whatever's going on in the house. He's like, I need a break. I'm just going to drive around in circles on a mower for an hour.
I can attest to you that it is very cathartic. I put in headsets. I listen to podcasts or a brand new album, whatever, if I'm excited that something's come out. It's my chance to mow, do manly things. everybody knows it's fun to sit on top of mower and cut stuff. And then if you're, by the way, mine has 2 drink holders. So I've got a beer in both of those drink holders too. So I've got a beer in both of them. And then I've got my headset going.
All boys, right?
Yeah, of course. And they shine in the sun. And it's just a reminder, you better drink them before it gets too hot. So, you're mowing. It's good. By the way, I did the ultimate manly thing the last time when it was working, and now it's working again. I'm excited to do this. I was mowing, and my wife came home, and she pulled up, and then she was going to go in the house, and she did the little wave to me as I was mowing, and which is already cool. You're mowing. It's your house. Your wife waves. You wave. The whole thing on the mower. But I did if you're watching on Warchant TV, you know this. I was telling her to get me a drink, and she was like, okay. And it was just made me feel, it's the little things, guys.
I know I'm familiar with the patch of land that you have in the front of the house. And do you mow the backyard as well? Or is that
I do mow the backyard. Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking literally. How long does that take? Like, for example, the front yard to do a riding mower?
30 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay. All right.
And then it takes me an hour to do the whole thing.
That's not
a little less than an hour.
That's not bad at all.
No. It's the right amount of time to listen to a podcast or an entire album, start to finish, 1 through 12, or however many songs there are on that particular record. You can get through every one of them, and then you turn off that mower. You heard that album. You're like, okay, because you know how I am about albums. I like to vet the whole thing, and there's a reason. Well, there's supposed to be a reason that song 1 is picked as 1 and 3 is 3 and 7 is 7. Like, they're all supposed to kind of connect together if the artist is worth a damn. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. These guys will set you up with complete pre-approval underwriting. This used to be an upgrade, but nowadays it's got to be standard. If you want to get your offer on a new home pushed to the front of the line, you need a TBD full underwriting approval from the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. You'll shorten or even remove your financing contingency, and the sellers will know that your offer is very real and ready to go. It's tough out there, folks, so why not have the advantage of a proven winning team in your huddle? Get pre-approval underwriting from my friends Shannon and Chad, the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. Call them today. It's 844-FSU-LOAN, 844-FSU-LOAN, or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com, FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender, NMLS number 200719.
Hi, my name is Shannon Pash, and I'm the principal at Red Hills Academy. We will provide a challenging, rigorous curriculum. We will also work with our students to teach them how to set goals and then how to work to reach those goals. Red Hills Academy will offer the Spanish language every day. Relationships are really important to us, not just with our students, but with our families and the community. This benefits parents and students alike because parents get that involvement within the school. Easily apply online today at redhillsacademy.com.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's.
Today's topic, Father's Day deals.
Dads can be tough to shop for.
Not at Kohl's. I got my dad a shirt for just $11.04.
Okay, that is pretty great.
It gets better. You can take an extra 15% off already amazing deals, like 20% off grilling tools, and not to mention 25% off Under Armour gear.
All right, I'm sold.
Oh, and you can save even more with a Kohl's card.
More style and more savings? On my way there now.
Select styles, 15% off ends June 19th. Under Armour coupons do not apply. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Hey, Dad? Cool if I change this?
They may not get each other's music, but they can both get a COVID-19 booster shot. Because the CDC recommends booster shots for people 12 years and older after completion of a primary series. Schedule an appointment as soon as you are eligible. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The Supreme Court has ruled on the immigration policy known as Remain in Mexico.
The High Court ruled that the Biden administration can end the Trump-era policy forcing some asylum seekers to wait in Mexico. This was a 5-4 decision. President Biden suspended the program on his very first day in office in January of 2021, but lower courts ordered it reinstated in response to legal action by Texas and Missouri. The Biden administration has sent far fewer immigrants back to Mexico than did the Trump administration. I'm Rita Foley.
Also at townhall.com, in a blow to the fight against climate change, the Supreme Court has limited how the nation's main anti-air pollution law can be used to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. Norman Hall has that story.
By a 6-3 vote with conservatives in the majority, the Supreme Court said that the Clean Air Act does not give the Environmental Protection Agency broad authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants that contribute to global warming. Instead, the EPA is now limited to plant-by-plant regulation. Power plants account for roughly 30% of carbon dioxide output. 19 mostly Republican-led states and coal companies led the fight against broad EPA authority to regulate carbon output. Court ruling could complicate the administration's plans to combat climate change. Norman Hall, Washington.
The head of NATO says an unstable world could get even more dangerous if the alliance does not remain strong and united. Jens Stoltenberg said NATO had a core responsibility to stop the conflict in Ukraine from spreading by making it clear it would protect every inch of NATO territory. He spoke at the end of a summit in Madrid that labeled Russia a direct threat to its members' security. More at townhall.com.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshares. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, well, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And the process started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. Sounds crazy, right? Well, the crazy thing is this never ends. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. I guarantee if we can't cancel your timeshare, you'll pay nothing.
Were you lied to when buying a timeshare and want out? Get the facts about timeshare cancellation. Call Wesley now for your free information kit. 800-691-9999. 800-691-9999. 800-691-9999.
Every day, Sellers makes life a little better for homeowners, helping them find the best design ideas for their homes with the best quality tile, carpet, and hardwood flooring. Even mosaics, ceramic, and vinyl solutions are at their fingertips in their remarkable showroom. Maybe it's time for you to get the Sellers Advantage for your home or office. Find them on Capitol Circle Northeast, just north of Mahan Drive, or online at sellerstile.com. For style, quality, and design, get the Sellers Advantage. In Tallahassee, call 656-8453.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, Libations Thursday edition. We're off tomorrow. The world is off. Well, I say the world. All of you are off on Monday. You should be anyhow, I would think. And we will be too, but back with you on Tuesday. Good to be with you today, though. Thanks for listening on 93.3. Thanks for watching on Warchant TV. As always, like and subscribe. Yeah, the theme last hour was a lot of saying goodbye to June and celebrating July being here, not just because of this grand weekend, but because July welcomes football, man. July welcomes football. How great is that? How cool is it that we know this month we're going to be watching football right here in July? It's going to happen. And a lot on the line. A lot on the line. I know we were talking about the posture, perhaps, that Mike Norvell should take at the ACC tournament. Tom says that he should assume a position of strength, of confidence. And I think that's true in general, even if you're not a team of consequence. I think you should. You can never present weakness. We might all know that you're going through a rebuild. We might not all know that it's a long-term rebuild at that. We might all know you're not poised to win the conference and or a national championship, certainly. But no football coach should ever project weakness. Has to be strength, has to be that of important business is getting done on a daily basis around here. And I am a representation of that important work that is being done, as I am not only putting in that work, but I'm guiding it through the growing process, the growth process. And now it's time to produce. And I agree with that sentiment, that it's time to produce. And I hope, certainly, for our sake, our sanity, and his job, that happens. I mean, I'm not worried about whether or not he loses his job. It's not my place to worry about that. I just don't feel like starting over selfishly. I don't feel like having to do it. Also, the other part of this conversation is that who the hell is the guy you're bringing in to save the day if it doesn't work out? Who's the can't miss coach that you're bringing in? He doesn't exist. Doesn't happen. I mean, he's not out there right now. There's no Nick Saban that's just waiting in the wings to come in here and save the day.
Please, I don't even want to go there mentally yet. It's kind of like the inverse of I was seeing a lot of things on Alex Atkins. I think we talked about this earlier in the week. If Atkins continues to do this well in the recruiting world and Florida State wins 8 or 9 games, who are we going to get to replace him? It's like, man, this is the year we've been waiting for, where we have a fair fighting chance to win enough games to turn this program around. And we've been talking for 5 years on this show, maybe a little bit more, because you hinted at it before Jimbo's time really came to a crashing halt. That, we're not in a position where we can do much. We're just going to lose football games. I think this year we finally can win some football games. So before I go through the exercise of who the hell's going to replace Mike Norvell, let's just see if we can win some damn football games first. That is not a mental exercise I really want to go through. That's for Michael Alford to do.
By the way, I think I'm proud of all of us. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of Matthew. I'm proud of anybody associated with the Jeff Cameron Show, Warchant.com, the Seminole fan base, because you just said something there that cracks me up. We're not in a position to do a whole lot. We're just going to lose football games. Now, you think about going into season after season, not just 1 or 2 seasons. Not like, well, we got to ride it out here. Let's pick a couple of things maybe to concentrate on to help us remain distracted from the larger issue. We've had to do it for 5 years where we're just like, all right, we're not offering much to the football playing world around here. There's a good chance we're going to lose again on Saturday, but here I am, glutton for punishment. I'll be tuned in knowing damn well how this thing's going to turn out on Saturday. We had to do it time and again, like just go into games, godforsaken heat, 98 degrees and humid, walking into that stadium, arm in arm, like the Bataan Death March. Here we go. We're just walking on in to watch this ass kicking. This is going to be ridiculous. And yet we put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. Look at our fellow Noles as we enter into the stadium like, yep, here it comes. Yep. I know. And not only do I get the great pleasure of sitting here in this godforsaken heat and watching this loss that's about to take place, I'm going to spend a lot of money at the concession stand to get myself through it. I'm going to go spend $25 on a barely edible sandwich, and then I'm going to get these fake ass chicken nuggets, and then I'm going to buy a big old soda, and I'm going to leave $100 poorer just to watch this ass kicking, and then I'm going to deal with traffic. I'm going to go out and sit in my car where I'm already stewing the decision to come to this game and to buy season tickets to watch this inferior product, and then I got to sit here, and because this guy doesn't know how to back out of a space properly, I just got to sit here and look at the wonders of the world in this parking garage. That's what I got to do, man. We deserve credit. That's a lot to have gone through.
That's right. That is a shared sacrifice. And I'll bet, not because I've done it myself, usually I'm covering these things from the hizzy, or back in the day when I was when we were just straight radio at the CP. Yeah. But what I wonder how many people, what percentage of fans, like you're describing, who they are tried and true, but they're tried. They're tired.
Oh.
Think to themselves, when there's a line at the concession stand that goes 20 or 30 minutes, good. I'd rather be here than out there anyway. You know what? However long it takes is however long it takes. That's no big deal. I hate the guy that's sitting in front of me anyway. He thinks that we should be 12-0. The guy behind me thinks we should fire this coach. They're within 1/2 of their first game ever as the head coach of Florida State. You know what? If I need to sit here in the sweltering non-sun heat of 95 degrees rather than the 110 heat index, and it takes an extra 30 minutes because the concession stand operation is incompetent, so be it. I'll take this line. This is good. Is the game on TV anywhere? No? Great. I'm just going to assume that everything's going fine. I'll bet you there are a lot of people in the stands at Doak Campbell Stadium that thought like that.
I think you're probably right. I was going back through, and I wanted to look something up, by the way. It's Florida State and Notre Dame in the history of the series. And we're, I think, 6-4 against them or something like that. I think that's correct. We have a winning record against Notre Dame. I was thinking back to the Chris Ricks Notre Dame game where I was in the stands with my dad and we got beat, and it was ridiculous. And he threw a pick right off the bat. And anyhow, so yeah, I know. But the reason I bring it up is I can remember we were about to enter into the lost decade. And you know that, and this isn't bragging, I was first guessing where we were heading. I was telling everybody, guys, this isn't good. This is setting up to be a problematic situation for us because that roster is pretty good and they don't win games the way they should. And when they do, they don't look good doing it. I don't think they're terribly well coached anymore. I think we got some issues on our hands here. I think this thing's about to fall off a cliff. And I was sounding the alarm and doing all that, and much to the chagrin of certain people. But I'll never forget my dad's dear friend, Blair. He has been a season ticket holder with my father for, well, what is now over, or at least it was back then, for over 30 years. Now my dad's over 40 years. But anyhow, the point would be Blair would come and we'd tailgate. This is long before I ever got into radio, before I ever started my career. Blair and I went to a game with Blair and my dad in 1982. I mean, that's how long, you go back. So yeah, that game, that particular game where it's 100 degrees and we just look like buffoons right out the gates. And you're just like, oh, well, this is a lost cause. We gave up a huge, lengthy touchdown right off the bat on a trick play where the whole world knew they were going to run that play because they had run it the week before. And then they ran it and it's a touchdown. You're like, really? Okay, this is what's happening. And I'll never forget it. But Blair turned to me in the stands and goes, that's it. That's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not coming to any more games. He hasn't been back. He hasn't.
What year was that?
Go back. It was 2002, 3, whatever that was. Like,
oh my God, the first lost decade? Oh
yes. He hasn't been back. He's like, screw it, I'm out. I can't do it. We hadn't even gone through real tough times yet. Like this guy's breaking point was very thin.
So that's not the guy that you're applauding in the open of this segment.
No.
Blair's not among those who's really seen some hard times.
I'm just saying that some people aren't built for it. And the people who are to be applauded. Yeah, the people who aren't are like Blair. They're like, oh, well, that's it. I'm out. I can't do this, man. I'll admit it. I'm a front runner. It's hot as hell out here. We don't know what we're doing. This is the beginning of the end, and I know it. I've got a man cave at my house. I don't have to drive up here every damn weekend just to watch us lose. The beers are cold in that fridge. I don't have to sit behind some fat-ass stranger with no shirt on screaming about the play calling. I'm going to do it in my house is what I'm – and I remember at the time I was like, well, that seems a bit extreme, Blair. That seems to be a bit much. It's a little early in the process here. I'll grant you, I think we're on a downward spiral, a downward path here, trajectory. But I wouldn't just wash my hands of the program on a Saturday afternoon for good. He's like, that's it. I'm not doing it. And he, to his credit, man of his word, he said, screw it.
Man, that's the other thing about chairbacks. You really encapsulated what's wrong with bleachers. And there's a reason the Romans had them and we don't. So can we advance a little bit as a people here? Because if somebody is shirtless or not in that heat at Doak, you've got their back sweat on your legs, on your knees.
First of all, if you're
disgusting.
Tom, we've advanced as a culture to an extent. Now we've gone backwards in a lot of ways. We know that. The internet has done us no services as a society, but I will tell you that I thought we had advanced to a place a long time ago. I might add, like not recently, but like 20 years ago. I thought we had advanced to a place where my fellow men understood, blessed with the greatest physique or not, it's really unbecoming. We don't need to go into the stands around strangers and just rip off our shirts. It's just not what you do. Like the thought of doing it seems crazy to me now. Like imagine if I like, Tom, we're gonna go to the game, we're gonna take off our shirts. That's just nuts. Man. Like, why does that even happen? I still don't know why that happens.
That's like you calling me and asking to go swimming. Like, what the hell is what are you talking about? We're gonna take off our shirts. This is dumb. But even if you do or you don't, you walk out of the stadium if you've got large proportional people around you with back sweat on your legs and then leg sweat on your back. Like, what the hell is that? That's ridiculous.
Since we're having fun, I will say, though, again, at least I got to see one of the greatest moments in fandom history. And by greatest, I mean appalling, awful, worst thing I've ever seen. But I could not stop laughing, and it infuriated the guy further. And I felt bad, but I couldn't stop laughing. I could not stop laughing. There was a college kid at the end of the row, and I could tell he was blitzed. He didn't maintain, and he's kind of weaving back and forth as the game goes on. Like he's having a hard time sustaining awakeness, if you will. And I think he's just falling asleep. Turns out he's trying to fight from puking. And then he just launches onto the woman, this guy's wife, right below him. Just right into her hair. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, just projectile into her hair. And I remember I was like, holy blank. I couldn't believe what I just saw. It was violent. And the husband is furious. He's like, first he looks at his poor wife, who's just almost in a fetal position. And he's just he could tell he wants to protect her, but it's too late. There's nothing he can do. And he turns to the kid, and the kid's a mess. I mean, obviously he's in the middle of puking. And here I am, like 5 seats over going, ha, ha, ha. I'm cracking up laughing, and he's getting angrier and angrier at me for laughing. Well, he needs to attend to this situation. It was awesome. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop. I felt so bad for her. I did, but my actions didn't show that because I was just laughing hysterically.
Well, that's what heat does to you. You do weird things.
Well, that and 27 beers.
Huh? No. Like you laughing instead of, feeling empathy. That's the heat. All bets are off.
I felt empathy. I just couldn't stop.
That wasn't you, though? That wasn't you who did that? See, I cut this promo 13 years ago.
No. I never puked on anybody.
It's one of the first promos I ever cut 13 years ago.
No. I've never puked on anybody at a game. No, never have. I never have done that. I've never even come close to doing that. In fact, I've never been at a game where I partied so much that I could do that. That's never happened. Now I have been intoxicated at football games many times, but I have never been at a football game where I was so intoxicated that could happen.
No, if that's the case, you just don't make it to the game.
You just don't go.
Yeah.
You just don't go. Yeah, if you reach a place where you're like, oh, we've crossed the line. We did not maintain. Fellas, enjoy the game, but take it to the house. I'm gonna because when we lived by the stadium, you could just walk home and just be like that. I'm going to my apartment off of Church Street. That's what I'm gonna do.
It's a slightly revised Goodwill Hunting line. Fellas, I got to go see about a couch. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. No, I've never done that. And you can't do that, fellas out there. You can't do what that kid did. Now, this is the 90s. He'll live. But, I mean, I'm sure he tells that story to everybody when that he trusts in his inner circle. Like, well, one time I got a little loose and it got away from me. And this poor woman had to bear the brunt of my poor decision-making. And, yeah, that's awful.
The smells of the student section. Every time you bring this back up, stories like this, the heat of Doak Campbell or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure to get your season tickets, everybody. Make sure season tickets, 644 Nole or whatever it is.
What a joy. What a joy. Yeah.
And I could not get out of the student section fast enough.
Me neither.
It was 2 noon kicks and I was done. I didn't make it through my whole freshman year going to games in the student section. It's too much. The smells were disgusting and the takes were awful. It just smelled. This is how I know that vodka has a scent. You know how you go sit at Doak at a noon kick the next day after people are partying until 3 a.m. because they know we're going to get our head kicked in. All it is just wafting of puke leftovers and vodka. That's all it is. Just
No, I know. I remember standing there, kind of taking it all in, looking around at my fellow man, just thinking like you could smell the beer on your own pores from the night before. Like you can remember it was probably a poor decision at Bullwinkle's to order that extra pitcher, and like you can smell that all around you. Yeah.
It's 106 heat index and nobody's sweating because they're out of sweat. That's where it is. I couldn't get those student season tickets fast enough. I think it was $215. And they think that they're terrible seats, but they're not. They put you on the sunny side. They were between the 40s, last row, sitting up against the brick wall or standing against the brick wall. Those were excellent seats.
The higher up you are, the better off you are, basically, because you can watch it like it's film.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, you can watch it like it's film. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
Hey, this is Dustin Rivest. During the pandemic, I noticed restaurants struggling with online ordering and watched as all the major third parties took advantage of our local restaurants and thought there must be a better way, which is why I created foodiestakeout.com. The unique thing about Foodies Takeout is that restaurants keep 100% of their order revenue versus splitting upwards of 30% with the third parties like Uber Eats and Bite Squad. At Foodies Takeout, you can find some of your favorite restaurants, such as Jerry's Midtown Cafe, Misty's Kitchen in Frenchtown, Casa Grande, and even El Jalisco. Or if you're on the north side of town, check out Horizons Bar and Grill. Why not give us a try? Head to foodiestakeout.com or text foodies to 230-9456, and I'll even give you 10% off your first meal. Supporting local restaurants has never been easier. Visit foodiestakeout.com.
Let's be honest, we all have way too much stuff. Maybe your storage closet is full, your garage is full, or the guest bedroom is a mess. Call Southeast Portable Buildings, 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Solve for the future with our friends at ISF, working partners of the Jeff Cameron Show. ISF, I tell you about them all the time. They're always alerting you guys to things that you need to be doing. For example, it's get yourself a bucket, hurricane preparedness, all that good stuff. But ISF obviously has done amazing thing with their government clients all around the country. So they're a local business in town, but they have over 80 clients all over the country, and they're an IT. ISF is an IT strategy firm. Been in business for 40 plus years, and again, serving state government. If you're listening to this and you're in state government, they understand you want to do amazing things. You've got big visions. You've got big goals. You work hard. You want to move the agency forward, but there are unique challenges to doing that, of course, and that's true of any type of government operations. And so they want to help you along. They want to get you to where you want to be, and they've done it. They've developed strategies. They've refined processes. They've implemented technology that allows you to get things done. Their expertise is in process and technology. Basically, listen, strategy, process, technology, those are the 3 keys to getting things done, working in 18 different states and local agencies, serving millions of citizens, as I say, over 40 years. ISF, solving for the future. Check them out. To learn more, go to ISF.com. We love that they're partnered with us on the Jeff Cameron Show. And I would say today's ISF, Tom, in solving for the future is you and I may be identifying as we get set to go to the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, and we get set to watch fall practice, where there are going to be some battles, position battles, segment groups that we're going to be keeping a keen eye on. Who are some X factors? That's what I wanted to bring up. Some guys that maybe we're not talking about, but maybe in the back of your mind, in the back of my mind, and really as Florida State fans listen to this and think about it a little bit. Who are some guys that you have a hunch, just a feeling? Maybe you saw a little bit of visual evidence on the football field a year ago. Maybe they gave an interview and said something that kind of struck a chord with you that made you believe that they are ready to take it to the next level. Perhaps it's a transfer. Perhaps it's a veteran player that's already on the roster. I think there are a lot of guys that fit that bill. I told you, and this is not an X factor. I'll get to an X factor in a second. I told you this camp when we were in spring that I thought Coop was poised to have a huge year. Robert Cooper doesn't get talked about enough. He is a disruptive force of nature when he wants to be. Now, you can't at that size be that every play in, play out, series in, series out. But when Robert Cooper decides he's full go in a given moment, there isn't an offensive lineman on this team that can block him. There aren't too many offensive linemen in the ACC. unless you're talking about a Remington Award winner or somebody like that, that is going to block him consistently well. He's too big, too strong, and too quick for his size. Again, not an X factor, but a guy that I think makes a huge difference and we should be talking about. I would go with the X factor being the obvious one. And I think that we've all probably nominated Johnny Wilson as that guy, right? Don't you think he's most likely to be the X factor? If he plays to that size, to that length, to the physicality that he exudes when he blocks. He loves to block. That's something we can certainly count on him to do. I need him to catch the ball more consistently. I need him to be a red zone difference maker. I need him to be a guy in the middle of the field that creates issues for teams down the seam that we haven't had because we have not been able to utilize the tight end consistently well. Johnny Wilson would be the X factor because if, in fact, he does that, it changes the game, changes what you can call, and it certainly changes the way defenses have to prepare for Florida State's offense. Who's your X factor?
Well, first of all, I'd say that that's a good pick because that makes the offense more multidimensional than it would be without Johnny Wilson as a pass-catching threat. If he's a pass-catching threat, then, I mean, you have to almost put two sets of eyeballs on Johnny Wilson pre-snap. I mean, like, he could be that much of a factor for defensive coordinators to scheme against him. And all he's got to do is prove it with some consistency. And then that's in the back of your mind when you call games and you call schemes defensively. You can't commit 8 players to the box when you've got a huge player like Johnny Wilson on the perimeter that can win a one-on-one battle. And that's the thing I think that we'll try and establish early this season is throw the ball up. Let's see if he can win a few of those battles, because if they show you on film Florida State's offense that an island is not enough to handle Johnny Wilson with any consistency, then you've got real options to open up the playbook and create explosive plays elsewhere. On defense, it's somebody we saw a limited amount of this particular spring camp, but I've heard good things in terms of body shaping, and that's Dennis Briggs. Dennis Briggs is a huge X factor to me for multiple reasons, one of which is obviously he could start and be an edge-setting defensive end, rush end, whatever they want to call it in their own terminology, that can help set the tone for you. When you combine that skill set with Lovett and Cooper in the middle, you've got a stout front four, and you can allow somebody else on the edge like a Jared Verse to go freelance a little bit more. But the other thing where Dennis Briggs could be a real player for Florida State, because he's got experience across all positions of the defensive line, from what I heard talking to Ira, he's got his weight down again to a defensive ends type body this offseason. On third and obvious, third and passing, you can take a Robert Cooper off of the field and put Dennis Briggs in the middle, allow Jared Verse and McClendon to play on the edges and pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. You could be disruptive from multiple places on the defensive line with one player moving inside on third downs. And maybe, just maybe, that frees you up to be in a position where you don't have to commit extra rushers to blitz the passer. And if we can generate a rush with the front four this year, I think that obviously the linebacking core is better. The secondary is better. You're talking about a defense that could be elevated to another level when it needs to get off the field. So Dennis Briggs, to me, is a player that I can't wait to watch because he's got to be a more consistent part of practices day in and day out.
I'm going to give you 2 or 3 more, and there are so many candidates because there are so many good transfer portal pickups. You know, Winston Wright is certainly a guy that could fit on this list. How healthy can he get to be before the start of the season? Such that he plays by week 2 against LSU. I don't need him to play against Duquesne. If he's healthy enough too, that'd be great to get some reps in this offense before making your debut, at a game like LSU anyhow. But that Winston Wright could be one. Dimitri Emmanuel, the offensive lineman from Charlotte, could be an X factor. We know, I don't think he's an X factor, but Tatum Bethune is going to be a big factor coming over at linebacker. But how about Caden Lyles? If Caden Lyles emerges as a starter on this offensive line, he's a bit of a road grader. He's a massive human being. It changes the run game. You got a lot of candidates for X factors here, a lot of them.
Yes, I think that's when you hit the transfer portal hard, it lends itself to that in the first place. I know I went with a holdover on the roster, but it's a position change for Dennis Briggs. But I could see any scenario playing out with Caden Lyles, where he is a guy that's on the bench that comes in as a rotational piece, or he is a starter and he is a beast up the middle. And anything in between. Nothing would shock me because I don't have enough information. And an X factor is what? If you want to get mathematical on it, it's a variable. And Caden Lyles is a total variable. I have no idea what the hell he is, other than when he's healthy enough, he can move dudes like Fabian Levitt off the ball. He can hold his own. He can hold his weight. It's not that he's going to do it every play, but he's strong enough, and certainly he's large enough to handle mass against mass. But I don't know what he's going to do. Another player I'd mention too, because this can help solidify the secondary, Reynardo Green. Reynardo Green has a huge camp ahead of him. If he locks down the outside corner role and allows Kevin Noles to play in the middle of this defense in terms of the corners and play closer to the line of scrimmage with Jamie Robinson, I think it's a greater benefit to the defense as a whole. I don't know that Reynardo Green is going to be able to lock it down, but if he does, then you can get fancy and you can play around with different downs, distances, different opponents, where you want some of your defensive backs to line up and some of those hybrid type players. So Reynardo Green has a lot more positive momentum after spring than he did before, simply because we're mentioning his name now. Nobody mentioned his name as somebody who would get a starting corners role before spring practice. But if he locks that down, imagine what you can do on some third and obvious situations and get AZ Thomas on the field closer to the football. I mean, there's a lot of fun that you can have with the defense if Reynardo Green shows out and takes that job.
I have an interesting sidebar, and this doesn't solve for the future like our friends at ISF do. It's instead looking back. But we talk about guys that are going to contribute and help out, that are kind of X factors coming into this season. If they do this, the team advances this much, or perhaps we could talk about win shares and what that would mean. Think about all the guys that are no longer here. And in many ways, this is also solving for the future. I guess I'm wrong about this because we had to get rid of so many guys that were dead weight, so many guys that were not contributing in the way that we had hoped. Of all those guys, and I took care to make sure to grab and take a peek at the list of people that have gone elsewhere, that have used the transfer portal on their own or been asked to have a good day. I'm going to go through that list really quickly. Name the guy that you wished was still here, or do you already know it? Do you already have a guy?
No, go ahead.
All right. So, again, try not to chuckle with some of these names, but it's a fun trip down memory lane for some of us as well. Josh Griffiths, Carlos Becker, Deontay Sheffield, Brian Robinson, Jalen Goss, Chubba Purdy, Ira Henry, Carter Boatwright, Jaleel McCray, True Thompson, Jordan Eubanks, Corey Wren, Hunter Washington, Parker Grothaus, Marcus Cushney, Jaden McCluster. Did I say Jalen? Brian Robinson, Dante Lucas. I'd start there with Dante Lucas. He's now at South Alabama. I think if Dante Lucas could have matured to a place where he bothered to care to work at all, he could have had a huge impact for us at a position, obviously, of great need, but unfortunately not. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, it's a nice reminder of how many kids and how they've had to go through this roster. DJ Williams is now in Arizona. Quayshawn Fuller, unfortunately, left and went to Maryland. Jadarius Green McKnight, they told to have a good day. He's at Marshall. Jordan Young, who we waited on forever. Tom, your guy, he's at FAU. Jarvis Brownlee, who I didn't mention, is at Louisville, of course. I would have liked to have seen Brownlee come back, frankly. I just liked the toughness he played with. He wasn't great in coverage, but boy, he'd come up and hit you, and he cared. But, there's a lot of names. Any one of those guys?
Well, Dante, they gave every opportunity to. So, to me, that's just...
No, I just wish it had worked out. I agree with you. He had to go, but,
I really liked the gadget play they'd run once a game for Corey Wren. That dude's speed was unbelievable. And I don't know if he could catch a kickoff or not. Maybe not, because we didn't really trot him out there all that often. But I just felt like that was a level of speed that looked like the old days. And even though he's not as refined of a player, you give him one or two looks a game, that could score. He could have hit his head on the goalpost. But, I mean, there's not a whole lot there other than maybe Brownlee. If Brownlee could have slotted in the middle and Noles had taken the job outside, I love Jarvis Brownlee around the line of scrimmage. I don't like him on an island against some of these ACC receivers.
No, you don't.
But I love the idea of him getting downhill. And if Noles was able to take the outside job and Brownlee could have slotted in the middle, at least on rundowns, that could have been fun. But in all honesty, you're looking at the import-export market here, the Art Vandelay. I like these imports more than I like the exports. I'm not lamenting too many guys that are gone right now.
No, you're right. It would have been a bad exercise and not one I would have wanted to do on ISF's Solving the Future. It would have been a bad exercise had I given those names, and somewhere around 5 or 6 names in, you're going, damn, man, those guys were good. No, you didn't do that. When I gave the names, when I rattled them off, and when Jordan Eubanks, Marcus Cushney, True Thompson, Jalen McCluster, Jaleel McRae, Carter Boatwright, Ira Henry, Jadarius Green McKnight, Kobe Gross, when I went through those names, you weren't like, oh, the sadness in my heart. Instead, you went, good. Thank God those guys aren't here anymore. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even trying to be mean. That's just a fact. We needed to upgrade the floor, raise the floor around here.
Yeah. I'd be less mean, and I'd say, thankfully, those scholarships are available. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it. Yeah, it's a good way of doing it. And I do think, one final thing on this, they're going to continue to utilize that portal. I think this is now becoming more mainstream where all programs, I mean, obviously, if you recruit at the highest level like Georgia and Alabama do, and Ohio State does, you don't really have to worry about it. But everybody else, if you're not one of those 3 or 4 teams that is winning recruiting battles, Texas A&M currently, where you're number 1 in the country, where you can build that base, but you're building that base with excellence, a bunch of 5 stars on top of 5 stars. If you're not capable of that, the transfer portal is a great thing for us as college football fans, because what do I always talk about? What people need. Players, coaches, fans all need hope. They all need hope.
Yeah.
And if you're buried on a depth chart, transfer portal gives you hope. If your team isn't good enough, transfer portal gives you hope. If you miss on a recruit as a coach, transfer portal gives you hope. That transfer portal thing is here with us to stay for good, and it is a positive thing for college football. Even though there are negative aspects to it, coaches have to learn to utilize it, be great at it. Recruiting is still recruiting. It's just another layer.
Yeah, I'd say, if the rule sticks, and I don't know that it will, that you got 25 that come in a given year. That's the maximum number of new players you can add. I think it should be 3-to-1, the ratio of high school to transfer portal players.
Sure.
But my working theory on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new players that are of the transfer portal in fall camp. My working theory on this is it's more reliable, the player that you're getting, because the film has to be more reliable. The body type is. They've already grown into their body a little bit more, especially if you have guys that are maybe 20 or 21 years old that might have a couple of years of eligibility left. If they played group of 5 or low-level power 5, wherever they did, that's got to be a lot easier to translate if you're a coaching staff, evaluate if you're a coaching staff, assessing what can this guy do for my scheme. Now, they hit it out the park, I thought, in spring, whether it was high school players or transfer portal guys. Their evaluation was through the roof. But if you've got another year in which you see that transfer portal additions to this roster are big impact players, not just X factors, but impact players on this roster, then I think at the very least you have to say, in this case, with this coaching staff, the way they see and take in the information and scout, the chances are when they bring in a transfer portal player,
it's going to hit. Yeah.
It's going to hit. Like, it's a high hit rate.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to hear. Our thanks to our friends at ISF, Solving the Future, here on the Jeff Cameron Show, and for state governments all around the country. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV.
It can spread over 50 feet a day. For further information on the southern pine beetle, contact your local county forester. The Florida Highway Patrol says a man suffered critical injuries following a Tuesday evening crash on County Road 167 in Calhoun County. Troopers responded to the scene of the single vehicle crash near the intersection of Fairview and Freeman Roads a little before 6. A sedan was traveling north on County Road 167 and it traveled onto the east shoulder. The driver, a 27-year-old Mariana man, overcorrected when getting the car back onto the road, causing the car to rotate then flip over. The driver was ejected. First responders found the driver suffering from critical injuries on the road's southbound lane. He was flown to the hospital for treatment. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt. This is Rachel Linnea with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MaclemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Scattered thunderstorms likely this afternoon. Otherwise, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. High temperatures reach up to 90. East winds around 5 miles per hour. Cloudy skies tonight. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Lows dip down to about 73. Scattered thunderstorms likely tomorrow. High of 89. More clouds and sun. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 90.
This is Kyle, service manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186. Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Here's what you missed on the Greg Tish Show.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. Pastor Tabner was alone with a female church employee. She in a towel and he in his boxers. The charismatic 41-year-old Hurley explained the two of them had been making chili and gotten food on the floor. With the hot dogs that they were making, we are hoping that the pastor used the right condiments.
Think? There was at least one hot dog involved.
I don't know what you're talking about. We were just making chili dogs.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Wrapping it up on what amounts to a Libation Thursday. We get set for the long weekend. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy 4th of July to all of you in advance. Obviously, we're not on the air on Monday. You guys will have the holiday as well, and I hope everybody has a good time with their friends and their family and stays safe. And Tom, that you have a fun time in New York, buddy. That's going to be cool. Hey, I do love looking at, I love to people watch. I do this all the time. I like to people watch. Around town yesterday and today is the time to go into big, like mall-like parking lots because everybody's selling the fireworks, and you see these little makeshift tents and everything. And I like two things. A, the people that traverse the country, can't wait to set up their tents to sell their fireworks. It's their big time of year. There's that. And then I like to see the people that are pulling up to get said fireworks. Always fun to people watch this time of year. Good stuff.
I got to imagine they're a lot more expensive this year, the fireworks, because I know supply chain issues for fireworks are crazy. In fact, I have a friend now who does pyrotechnics for Florida State and other stuff. He works the gig, and he'll be doing a July 4th show. I forget exactly which one in town, but for barges, as ships set sail across the world, and a lot of fireworks, as you might know, come from China, you have to have your fireworks on the top level because you can't have the whole boat go down because of a mishap. Well, now tech companies are spending so much money on having that particular level of the barge taken into account that fireworks supply, like anything else, is just completely limited. So I imagine those folks have quite the surprise when they pull up to the Walmart parking lot or the abandoned parking lot near you. They walk under the tent and they expect to get the big cats or whatever it is, and they're double or triple the price. The supply is down. So then also that means that fireworks shows near you might not be as extravagant as they were in years past. So savor it. There might be that time where you think, oh, that's only the second inning. Here comes the grand finale. The second inning might be the grand finale. So again, just enjoy your fireworks. There's a little PSA for you.
Have you ever been to Savannah?
No, and that's on my list. We're so damn close. How can I not have been?
That's awesome. You need to go to Savannah. You'll like it. Secondly, when you go, one of the things you have to do is go to the port of Savannah. It's a global carrier. It's a unbelievable to the market, if you will, service that, and they've gorged that port. It's one of the biggest in the country. You wouldn't have guessed it in Savannah, but they have. And by the way, when they gorged that to make it deeper, they drudged that, right, so that you can get even bigger rigs in these ships that you're talking about. First of all, to see one of those things up close is insane. How big they are, they're massive. They're just like massive skyscrapers on water. It's crazy to look at these things, to watch how things come and go into this country on these massive, like, remember The Wire season 2? It's like all of those things. It's unbelievable. But something cool as an aside, if you go, they'll talk about how when they dredge that, when they gorge that, whatever they call it, to make it deeper, they found unbelievable stuff. I mean, obviously, never mind all the arrowheads and all that stuff, and pottery from ancient peoples that lived there on the river. Massive mastodon teeth, gigantic megalodon tooths. Just like this. It's unreal. It's just a cool little thing, and you got me thinking about shipping. Basically, and what's coming and going, and how tall those things are. Like you're talking about stacking those things. It is unreal. You'll just sit in awe. I could stand there by the river for 2 hours just doing nothing but watching these things come and go. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that in and of itself, the delivery process would be a lot of fun. Like boats and water, not my thing. Not really a huge boat guy. However, I'm in awe of them. And some, like,
sure,
you're talking about shipping rigs or whatever. I've been on an aircraft carrier before. Of course, it was in port. I was not out at sea. But my God, the size of these things, the scope of what you're dealing with, it's like a mini city on the water. It's just, and I've never been on a cruise, and I don't intend to go on one. I'm not a huge, boat guy, but it's just amazing what we can construct as a people to bring crap to each other. That's basically all it's for. We just want to bring crap to each other, but we're very good at it. And hopefully at some point we have that with the big, what do you call them? The drones, the big drones in the sky too. You'll have drones that help take things from one continent to another in the next decade or two.
I'll tell you this though. It's crazy. I read a story one time about there are only so many, I don't remember how many, maybe 170, something like that, captains of these tankers, these ships, these massive things that we're talking about. Like, it's hard to get that job. And you're paid very handsomely. And if you think about why you would be, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on you. But also, you're out in the ocean for months at a time, just going clear across the world. And, you're away from your family. Anything goes wrong, you're out of luck, baby. We're out on the open ocean. This is going to suck. So I was thinking about that. And also, because there are only so many jobs, very few, it's like getting a head coaching job in the NFL. Like, the competition is fierce to get one of those jobs. But the trick is you have to be unbelievably talented to be able to maneuver the tankers that are that big to where they're supposed to go properly. And when you get into these little shipping channels, in some cases, like we know about the one that got stuck, right? Like, that can't happen. Right. That can't happen. You can't get stuck because you screw up the works around the rest of the world. They just have to circle while your dumbass has screwed up everything for everybody else. Anyhow, so I watching that, I was like, can you imagine how just profusely sweating they are as they come in for that final stretch? We're like, man, we've been out at sea for 3 months. Don't screw this up, Johnny. Make sure you get this right. I got to get off this boat, damn it.
That's Captain Johnny to you, first of all. And,
right.
And secondly, it occurs to me that, we speak with conviction on a lot of things on this show. For people who are enthusiasts of transit, of goods and shipping, they're like, these jerks, they don't know a barge from a gorge.
No, I don't. But it's not up to me to know that. I just know that there are very few jobs like that, and I like to stand in awe at those things. And frankly, you need to reassess some things if you are a passionate fan of transit. You just, listen, I get it. It's something to admire, but if that's a passion of yours, well, let's expand our horizons, everybody. That's all I'm saying.
I take my son to the port, and we look and see if we can get 4 stacks of parcels that are the same color. You know, that's what we do on Saturdays. If we got, oh, there we go. 4 red ones. There. Good job, Johnny. There you go.
Cue up the probables music, shall we? Let's just get to that before I offend and frustrate somebody.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching
Okay.
probables?
Twins, Guardians, Chris Archer, Shane Bieber. We got Braves and Phillies. Here we go. Let's get it on. Ian Anderson, Aaron Nola. Did you see Mark Appel pitch last night, Tom?
Yeah, wasn't it for the Phillies?
Yes, it was. He pitched 1 inning. And how about my man getting drafted 2013 first overall and making his debut in 2022? Doing some things. Good for him, man. Good for him. Yankees, Astros, Luis Severino, Luis Garcia, Brewers, Pirates, Adrian Hauser, JT Brubaker. I mention it every time, and why should today be any different? JT Brubaker, who sucks. Rays, Blue Jays, TBD, and Yusei Kikuchi. Reds, Cubs, Graham Ashcroft and Kyle Hendricks. We got the Padres and the Dodgers tonight. There we go. I think they're separated by a game. That ought to be good. Joe Musgrove, who inexplicably became the best pitcher in baseball somewhere along the way. We'll take the hill for the Padres. The Dodgers will throw Mitch White. Mitch White, nice to meet you. A's, Mariners, Adrian Martinez, and Logan Gilbert. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. Boom. Just like that. Mitch White.
Yeah, well.
Mitch White.
That sounds like an apt description of a man named Mitch.
Well played. We should end on that note. Hey, have you ever met a black Mitch? I just thought about that. Have you? I don't think so.
You, my Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay.
Somebody's going to be like, of course, Jeff, you forgot. It's like the time on
Jerry.
We couldn't remember Black Jerry's. They're like, Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver in the history of football, you dumbasses. And then immediately I was like, oh, yeah, and Jerry Judy. There are a lot of Black Jerry's. What is wrong with me? But none of us could remember. Black Mitches?
I'm looking up famous Mitch. Most famous people named Mitch.
You should be. It's kind of fun to type into Google Black Mitches. Like,
I'm not doing that.
Hey, yeah. You seeing any Black Mitches?
Not so far. No.
All my love to you guys out there. Safe travels, Tom Lang. Thank you, Director Matthew, as always, my brother. And happy 4th of July weekend. I hope you guys have a safe one and a great one. And we will be with you Tuesday with Seminole Headlines. Jeff Cameron Show is in town next week, even if Tom is not. We will be back with you. Be well, everybody. Take care. Welcome in, Warchant TV. I'm Jeff Cameron. There is Tom Lang. We are a duo that works together on the Jeff Cameron Show. He's also director of content. And I'm just like this vagabond host that fills in on videos from time to time here at Warchant. I don't know how else we would say it, but we're breaking in here because I think this is really good news that we want to talk about right now, which is, as you can see on your screen, as we get going, like and subscribe. Always like and subscribe so that you're alerted to when videos like this post and you don't miss out on the conversation. Breaking news, multiple media outlets reporting Southern Cal and UCLA are in talks to leave the Pac-12 and join the Big Ten. Now, John Wilner originally was the first source of this information. He's a Pac-12 guy, Pac-12 hotline out in San Jose. I don't know a lot about him. I'm not going to pretend that I do. He was the first to report it. Others jumped on board. Pete Thamel did as well. And Tom, if you would, I mean, you can scroll up the tweets there. There you see Thamel's confirming the Wilner hotline that Southern Cal and UCLA were exploring a move to the Big Ten. The schools researching the move for the past few months. Financial disparity between the Big Ten revenue and projected Pac-12 revenue proved to be the biggest factor. Well, of course it did. And that stands to reason. You're going to get more confirmation here. There have been a lot of reporters to jump into the party so far this afternoon, especially Pac-12 reporters and Big Ten reporters who have connections, obviously, to the upper brass of these two conferences. Look, at the end of the day, and let's just begin the conversation right now because I'm going to bring it back home to Florida State University here in just a second. But, Tom, this seems evident, right? The Pac-12 revenue from media rights has been minuscule compared to that of the Big Ten and the SEC, really everybody else has. And Larry Scott prior, I know he's no longer there with the Pac-12, did a terrible job and was a failure. And now you're talking about, if you're the Big Ten, why would you do it? Well, you're bringing in Los Angeles to go along with New York that you already have. So you have the two largest markets to go with. Philadelphia. Let's add Baltimore to that mix. This is about making more money. This is about making a lot more money. And you can look at those average payout estimates. We did a video not all that long ago about the desperation one feels while residing in the ACC. Now it becomes a fun talking point. First of all, can I just say that I believe this speeds up the timeline for Florida State, Clemson, perhaps Miami, and a few others, really all of the major players when it comes to the big-time world of college football. If you think of the quilt that is college football, Florida State and schools like them are a big part of it. And so now it is that we begin to think about these two super conferences, which is where this was inevitably headed all along. Now, I remember having a conversation with David Hale about this, ACC reporter for ESPN.com. David said that when he talks to athletic directors and presidents in the ACC, or really throughout college football, the thought has always been that it was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 48 teams, 40 to 48 teams, could be two 20-team conferences, could be 24-team conferences. So what you immediately go to here is, okay, who's not in one of those right now? Who's not in the SEC and who's not in the Big Ten? And if those are the two mega conferences that survive, and it would appear that they're going to be the two that survive, where do we end up? Where does Florida State end up? Does Florida State get chosen? I think the answer to that is a resounding yes. I know some people have panicked on these fronts. I don't believe so. Florida State would get in. They would be a sexy name to add to the ledger of your conference when you're thinking about media rights and contracts with television networks and online outlets and the like. So, we know now Apple is buying rights to college football. We know that more and more of these entities are going to gobble up live sports, and you're going to want that. So how quickly does it happen? I don't know. It's a complicated mess right now. I do know that Jim Phillips, Tom, has to be in the corner somewhere puking because he picked a very bad time to get the role of commissioner, which he had cherished. He originally thought he was going to be the Big Ten commissioner. Politics played a role in that, allegedly. He didn't get it. He became the ACC commissioner. Seemed like a great get for the ACC, as he is extremely well thought of. And this is not certainly a knock on his acumen or ability to do the job. Problem is, I don't think he's going to have much to work with here. I think it's a sinking ship, and I wouldn't be surprised right now if Florida State, Clemson, Miami, I don't know, Virginia Tech, whomever else, North Carolina, if they're not bonding together to make their pitch to leave and join. I mean, leverage this to sink the conference, if you will.
Yeah, I think a lot of hypothetical conversations are going on right now over the phone, not via email, not via text. I can promise you that, to make sure that nobody is held liable for any breach of contract. That's what has to be going on right now across the country. Like, for example, if you are, and I'll pull the numbers up again, these are Pac-12 figures. You can see them standing side by side with the ACC before USC and UCLA would even leave. So this move in and of itself would completely kill the Pac-12.
It's over.
If I'm a school like Oregon or Washington, or name your school that you feel has a fighting chance at the next level, at a super league, Utah maybe of late, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth right now. Not only am I making phone calls with maybe one person in my athletic department to the Pac-12 home offices and say, do you believe this crap? Don't let them go. We need to be consolidated. And then I'll have somebody else in the athletic department calling UCLA, USC, and the Big Ten and saying, hey, can we be on the short list too? That's what you have to do right now, is play those double-sided games, play both sides and see which one works out. It was happening in live time not too long ago, not long before the recording of this video, that it was one fledgling report from this gentleman who covers the Pac-12 out in San Jose. I did some quick geography. I was like, how close is San Jose to not UCLA and USC? It's an hour south of Berkeley. It's in North California. All right.
I've been to San Jose. It's beautiful.
It is, as is all of North California. It's a gorgeous part of the country. This, I suspected, was the bullhorn call to the Pac-12 offices to say something is happening. You are not aware of it. Let's put public pressure on the Pac-12, on these two institutions to remain in the Pac-12 so they can't consummate a deal in the dead of night and it's already post-fact. And that's exactly what happened. As you see, we put out the tweets. I'll put it up again from Pete Thamel. This has huge implications in the state of California, which I don't give a damn about, but this tells you how serious UCLA is about leaving, because they would have to leave the UC University system in order to break away from Cal and go off to the Big Ten on its own. So this is not a decision that is made lightly without the president of the university deeply involved and weighing the pros and the cons of changing your identity as a university in the name of athletics. That's how serious that this has gotten. And what I mean by that, the point is for Florida State, everything's on the table now. If you can find a way out of that contract, the grant of rights, then you find your way out of that contract in the near future. I don't know that they can do it on their own. I think what this is doing ultimately is it's putting pressure on the TV executives to take the first step.
There he is. There it is.
Super League more than anything else, because it's the TV executives who are going to be paying out 5 Power 5 TV contracts, 3 of which are completely irrelevant to them in the way of
ratings. This is where you have to have the ESPN brass looking deep into the future about where this is headed and understanding that you have to aid in this endeavor if you're going to want, if you're going to want to help create whatever this super conference looks like for you to be able to televise, you're going to have to get involved, like you're saying. I don't think there's any doubt. Like at that point, wouldn't you be looking, whether it's the SEC or the Big Ten, and say, okay, well, let's look at what do we have here? What markets do we have? Well, we have New York and LA. That's a pretty good one. Okay, now what else would we want to do? Well, I'll tell you what I'd want to do. I'd like to add North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami. Seems like a good call. Let's get on that. Meanwhile, the SEC is like, no, we would like Florida State, Clemson, Miami. I don't know who they want and who they don't want. I'm not in those meetings, but certainly it makes sense that you're grabbing those with the most amount of football cachet, those that draw eyes to sets, those that create more of a buzz than not. That is Florida State. It ain't Wake. So this is where we get the get out of jail free card that we've been waiting on for a long time. How we're going to get there, what it's going to look like, how soon it happens. I don't have answers for that right now. I'm not sure that there's somebody who does, not specifically to that timeline. Hey, it's going to be in the year 2028. It's going to be year 2038. I don't think we know that yet. But what we know is the tracks have been greased. Here we go. It's time. It's time.
Right. And I understand, and I could see Gene Williams shaking his head about, the ironclad grant of rights. But this is a time, and I understand also that the flexibility of the Pac-12 renegotiation allows for USC and UCLA to leave at a time when there's a grant of rights like Florida State has. I get all that. But it appears like we are moving towards an era of college football reshuffling in which you're going to move first and figure out the money later. And I think the networks are going to be okay with that, because in the end, it's the networks that are cutting these checks in the first place. And it's the networks that don't want to look stupid and or be paying for an entity that does not give them return on investment. And the way this is going right now, the Pac-12 will give you no ROI. The Big 12, great. They got UCF and Cincinnati. They're not going to give you any ROI. And the ACC is soon to follow suit and be in that same camp. So where does it go? We'll see. But necessity is the mother of invention. And I think now, in the grand scheme of the history of the game, 10 years from now, one paragraph's going to read Texas, Oklahoma to the SEC. The next one's going to read USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, and then the dominoes fell. We'll see how they do and how quickly they do.
It's a fun conversation because you're right. It is an ironclad contract. It is problematic, but we've seen things like this get worked out. I do believe that ultimately this is the thing that really saves us in a desperate situation of getting out of the ACC. Frankly, today's a day where we're getting past the nonsense. We're probably expediting the process of getting out of this Packer and Durham conference. This is where we get to get the hell out and say goodbye and peace out and all this stuff. I brought that up because we were laughing about it yesterday. How that happens, I don't know. But again, the Big Ten, I would think, just like the SEC, as of right now, it's the stare down. It's time to get it on, big boy. We counter your Texas and Oklahoma with a little bit of USC, UCLA, and we ain't stopping because we know you're not going to. It is now war. Let's go.
Yeah, and if it gets to 48, then you could almost see, and again, I get it. The skeptics are going to shake their head. I choose to be optimistic because it costs me nothing, and it allows.
Also, just you can see where this is headed. I'm not saying, again, I'm not telling you tomorrow we find out that we're joining the Big Ten. Tomorrow we find out we're joining the SEC. I'm not saying that. There are going to be huge hurdles. There are going to be some legal battles. There are going to be questions that right now we don't, in an emergency video, have time or the information in order to answer. I agree with that. I'm just thinking that if you look off in the distance, you see where this is going.
Right.
Now, again, there are a lot of people with a lot of money on the line that are very interested in not letting this happen, just as there are those who do want this to happen. But I think there's an air of inevitability to this.
Yeah, I think if this follows through and they're in advanced discussions, some outlets are saying that they are moving, some are saying that it requires notification and some, formalities, and some say there's still a decision to be made. But whatever the case, if USC and UCLA do follow through and leave the Pac-12, the Pac-12 is dead. So it's the Power 4 at that point. At what point does it become the Power 3? At what point does it become the Super 2? That's where we're going here. There's no way that you can save the Pac-12 without those two schools there. There's just, unless you band together with the what's left of the Big 12 and you create some sort of conference there, I still don't think you have enough cachet. But these dominoes are crazily in motion, and it's weird how it happens in the dead of summer, because this was the news just as the ACC kickoff was going on last year, that Texas and Oklahoma would leave. This must be the season where athletic directors and university presidents get antsy.
I think it's going to be fun to watch here over the next, I guess I'd say, year. We're going to now, because the conversation was ignited a moment ago when that news broke. It was ignited the last time when Texas and Oklahoma came up, and it's ignited again. And we're noticing this is happening a lot more frequently. Think about how often, even on our own message boards on Warchant, on the Jeff Cameron Show, on Wake Up Warchant, really conversations, private conversations that we all have as people that cover college football, or even as just people that love the game of college football. And all the times we all go out to a bar and have a cold one and discuss theoretics about the future. Hey, well, this could happen, this could happen. We've all been talking about the day that, hey, this is moving to 2 super conferences. You know it, and I know it. What's going to happen? I do wonder, what is the ACC? Because Jim Phillips and the ACC, obviously they've got to fight to survive. So what are your options? I'll tell you what your options are, and I don't know how you would make this happen. But if we're going to argue the other side of it for just a moment, Tom, and I know that's not the side we want to be on, what you would then do is think a million miles outside the box. You now have to start thinking about, okay, can I join with the Big 12? Can I, and split revenue? Can I say, all right, those Pac-12 schools that aren't UCLA and USC, Washington, Oregon, Arizona State, do you guys want to be part of the ACC? The Pac-12 might be thinking, does Florida State want to be part of the Pac-12? You see what I'm saying? Like, at this point, because the alliance is dead, baby. The alliance lasted for a year and it went off a cliff. So now it's every man for himself, and you're talking about, what do you do to combat the Big Ten and the SEC? You might say there's nothing you can do. Well, they're not going to do that, Tom. They've got to fight for their lives. So if you're Jim Phillips, are you not on the phone with Washington and Oregon and Arizona State and whoever the hell else you like from that conference? Utah? Are you not doing that? If you're that conference, are you not doing the same? Are you calling the Big 12, whatever groups you would want out of there? I don't know who's left that you'd want, but maybe Oklahoma State. Isn't this something that you'd be doing right about now?
Yeah, it is. I think I'd go through those motions and see. This was my radical idea when we did a roundtable last summer, and that was, the ACC should have called the Pac-12 before UCLA and USC left. And seeing if you could have had a coast to coast, drop the ACC, the A in the ACC, just call it the coast to coast conference, right? Triple C. And you've got a West group and an East group, and then you have
the travel money for all that, Tom, is crazy.
Well, that's the other elephant in the room, is that you've got to reclassify football and make travel arrangements for that, and then have these other conferences that we don't know the names of yet come to life that are regional and regional alone. And football, maybe basketball can travel at the level, men's basketball can travel at the level that football can, but maybe not. I mean, would you really, who cares? The tournament's so big anyway. We'll see you later. It's really not that big of a deal. For football is what it counts. And at this point, look, Jim Phillips is not going to be out of a job. Even if the ACC were to crumble in 3-4 years, he's not going to be out of a job. And your job as the conference commissioner is to suit your conference members and serve your conference members. And if you've got a super majority at any point that says, 4 want to go to the Big Ten, 5 want to go to the SEC, and all have invites, and then you can work the votes and you can work the room to get the votes to dissolve it, then it's in your best interest to be that type of executive that spins off assets and makes.
Who gets? I'm sorry, Tom. You know who gets nervous today, though, and in many ways.
Good.
What?
I said, I already know. Good.
Yeah. No, I know. But what I would tell you is, I get it here. This is every man for himself. We're out for blood. You got to go get paid. You got to be part of the super group. I get it. That said, if I could bring it back home to the kid in me that loves college football, I mean, the ship has already sailed. I got it. Remember, I make the joke all the time that if you love purity in the game, then watch Ivy League football every Saturday. Because other than that, you're watching a convoluted, money-driven, semi-pro mess. Anyhow, it's been that way for a long time since television money got involved. Now, who doesn't get in? Who is it that is sitting there today going, oh, man, well, I guess the dream's over? Well, that's pretty interesting to talk about. That's a lot of teams. That's the majority. Now you're starting to ask questions like, does Virginia make it in? Probably goes to the Big Ten.
Yep.
North Carolina probably goes to the Big Ten. What about Wake? Do they get in? No, I don't think Wake gets in. You think Boston College gets in? Peace. Probably not. No. Go through all the conferences and start asking yourself, what happens to Cal? What happens to Stanford? You know what I'm saying? Like Tom, this isn't about your empathy. I'm saying you start asking big picture questions about a changing landscape of a sport that we have beloved forever. I'm not losing sleep over it. I am saying it is interesting to think about. And I do have some pity for people who are going to watch their program or their university that they loved and went to and supported for years and years and years to be part of big time football, almost by purely happenstance. Because I'll tell you what, they get screwed when you consider. Think about a sorry ass program like Rutgers is going to survive this because they got lucky enough to join the Big Ten for God knows what reason. They're going to be an annual stepping stone. They don't care. They're getting paid. But they survive. Vanderbilt survives. Teams like that survive because they're already in. They're not booting them out. So they're already in. Maryland survived. But, man, if you didn't get ponied up alongside the right deal and you don't have the cachet, your day is done. You just got your death notice. It may not be tomorrow, but you just got an end date.
Yeah, from a revenue standpoint, more than anything else, because
that's what I mean.
Yeah, you weren't going to win anything anyway, and you were a meaningless game for power programs on their schedule too. I mean, every once in a while you'd score an upset, and I understand for Florida State those upsets happen all the time. They aren't even upsets; we're the underdogs in those games. But I also am just vindictive in some ways, and here's one of those ways I'm vindictive. We have been evenly splitting revenue as a conference.
Agreed. I'm not saying
that is coloring my opinion on the matter where I don't have empathy. Get us to where we need to go first, and then I'll worry about having empathy for other programs in the sport.
I think maybe empathy is the wrong word here. I'm not saying that I'm going to spend when we turn off these cameras and I go about the rest of my day, I'm not going to be sitting in a corner sipping on a beer going, but damn it, I feel so bad for NC State. I'm not going to do that.
They'll probably get in, but yeah.
They probably will, although they've never won anything of any significance at all. I don't know. There are enough schools and enough programs that I think, man, that's a toughie. That's a toughie for them today. And hey, listen, at the end of the day, though, I will say this. I think this ends up working out for us as consumers, as fans, as people who love the game. There's nothing against. I would watch, for example, and I think you would too. Let's just hypothetical this thing for a second. Grab Wake Forest, and if Wake Forest was playing USF on a random Saturday, it was part of a different classified level of football. Yeah, fine. If it's a level playing field and we get high level competition and they decide a national championship and they're not part of the super conferences, great. I'm watching that brand of football. I am. It's a lot of people would probably prefer it. I'm not one of them who prefer it, but there'll be plenty of people who do. That's fine. It's going to work out.
Oh, totally. I mean, more options as long as it's part of the traditional calendar. I mean, shoot, I'll watch the FCC playoffs.
Yeah.
I'll watch, I love watching fan play, especially the Florida Classic. I watch the Celebration Bowl. I watch Army Navy.
Of course you do.
Those aren't the same levels of football, but it's football, man. So it's still going to be out there. It's just going to be, you're going to be reaping what you sow financially if you're one of those institutions. And there'll be some of the lucky few that you enumerated that made the cut because they had the foresight to jump on board with a good conference, one that had the staying power. So good for those schools for having the foresight. Maryland, in a way, is safer than Florida State as we sit here this very second, which is just
well, yes, because they're already in, but we're getting in. I'm not worried about that. And I say to you, I don't think that they had the foresight. I think they got lucky. I think they got really lucky. They took the extended offer and said yes. I don't think they said yes and went, you know why we're doing this? Because 10 years from now, everybody's on fire. I don't think they did that. I think they just took it. They saw it. They got offered a good deal. There was a lot of money. They said, okay, I'll take the money.
Right. Well, and also the Big Ten Network did exist at that point. That's
what I mean.
That's the first domino in this whole chapter of the history of college football was when the Big Ten launched its own television channel. And little did they know that it would greatly color the next 50 years of how the sport is organized and played. But it has.
It's a big part, too, as we sign off, why UCLA and USC are saying, screw this. The Pac-12 network is a fledgling piece of garbage that nobody has. So it's not like anybody, you know what I mean? They know this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. We can make a lot more money, so let's go do that.
Hey, and if it also pisses off the Rose Bowl Commission that they'll move off their January 1st game so we can schedule college football playoffs in a timely fashion, good too. Burn that thing to the ground. That'd be good.
Well, there's no more alliance between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten to play each other in the Rose Bowl.
Big Ten championship game.
Big 12 just got stabbed in the stomach. Went, why? And the Big Ten said, easy, killer, just breathe. Yo, it's the worst. That scene bothers me to this day. He's Tom Lang. I'm Jeff Cameron. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Warchant